Alright, today we're going to talk about Japan during the pre-modern period. Japan is the island located off the coast of China. Now, during the last unit, the post-classical unit, we talked about Japan establishing a feudal system where the emperor and the shogun share power. There's a two-leader system, and then the daimyo, or the nobles or landowners, that sort of limit the power of these two. And then you have samurai, the warriors, and peasants. But feudalism in Japan during the pre-modern era began to fade during a time called the Era of Warring Lords, where the daimyo were fighting against each other to try to take control over land in Japan. And one person in particular rose to power during this Era of Warring Lords. His name was Tokugawa Ieyasu. He was a shogun. And Tokugawa established something called the shogunate. The Tokugawa shogunate, which is a government ruled by the shogun. So he's going to change a lot of things in Japan, the way that things work. Feudalism is out, and now it's going to be a shogunate. The shogun is going to have the power. And he takes all power away from the daimyo, these noble landowners, and from the emperor. Now they're still going to be there, still going to be daimyo, they're still going to be emperors, but the shogun is going to have all the power. He took possession of all the land, so all the land was his. It's no more the daimyo's. And he establishes a strict social hierarchy so that he does not allow people to move up and down the charts. People know where they are in the system. And one of the things that he did to make sure that he kept power was that he didn't allow anybody to carry swords except for his own samurai. And he made a lot of the daimyo move to the capital city of Edo, where he lived, so he could watch them. He also issued something called the National Seclusion Policy. Tokugawa Ieyasu saw what Europeans did when they came to the Philippines. They conquered the Philippines, and they didn't want that to happen. So Japan isolated itself with this law called the National Seclusion Policy in 1635. And it prevented all merchants from coming to Japan. If a European merchant came to Japan, he was executed. It also persecuted Christian missionaries. There were Christian missionaries in Japan that were trying to spread the religion, and he started persecuting them to try to get them to leave. It also prevented Japanese people from leaving. They couldn't go trade with the European and then come back, because they didn't want Europeans to think that they had any place in Japan at all. And he made merchants the lowest class so they wouldn't trade with Europeans. Now, during this time of isolation, where Japan stopped trading, there was a flowering or blossoming of arts due to the isolation. Because they weren't interacting, the Japanese culture itself flourished and developed its own sort of independent types of art. One is kabuki theater. Here you can see kabuki theater where they had these plays. Oftentimes their faces were painted. Women were not allowed to act, and then the women's roles were played by men. We also have a haiku, which is a poem, landscape paintings, which we'll get back to these two. A geisha is a group of female entertainers, and often concubines. So they would entertain male rulers and officials, and then they would also sometimes be sort of concubines or sexual servants to the rulers as well. So the other two, the haiku and the landscape paintings. A haiku is a poem that is all about syllables. So it's a 3-line poem. First line has 5 syllables, second line has 7 syllables, the third line has 5 syllables again. And most of the time these haikus were about nature. And their paintings were mostly about nature too. Here you can see these landscape paintings. And this was a influence of the Buddhism that had spread, the Shintoism, and a little bit of Taoist influences as well from China. The influence of sinification that had spread. And then that is it for Japan.